Hey, I know it's a minute or two early, but I've never done a live stream, so I wanted to get on here a little bit ahead of time. Gary, can you hear me? Rosario? Hoping you guys are able to hear me. Sorry, just messing around with this. Seeing if I can figure it out. Could someone comment that they can hear me? Hey, Garrett, can you hear me? Perfect. Thanks, Gary. Just wanted to make sure. I'm not the best with technology, but I generally figure it out. See if I can hold this steady. Hey, good morning. Thanks, Rosario. I'm going to take this out of the stand because it's not working. Well, you guys are early. Oh, I guess there's 11 people here now. Hey, good morning. So I'll go ahead and get started if I can hold this steady. I just wanted to do a live like the description says because the weekly episodes are somewhere between, I don't know, 5 and 6 weeks behind. So I wanted to do a live and catch everybody up. I've never done one of these. Sorry if it sucks, but I hope it doesn't. So I appreciate you all joining. Oh, someone from Germany. Good morning. Entschuldigen Sie, verstehen Sie Deutsch? That's literally as much German as I know. Well, for those that follow me on Facebook or any of the other social media sites, you'll probably already know that I'm in Luperon, Dominican Republic. I got here like May 20th, May 24th, something like that. And I am learning really, really, really fast why a lot of Hispanic countries take very long afternoon siestas. It's because it's so dang hot that you literally can't work from about 11 o'clock in the morning to 5 in the afternoon. It's I mean, I've come really close just a few days ago to, I think I was really close anyway to having a heat stroke. I was off the boat working in the work yard, and I was starting to black out. I was seeing stars. It was actually really dangerous. So I rushed back over to the boat and got in the air conditioner. But that's the long way of saying it is freaking hot. And no wonder that a lot of the Hispanic populations in countries around the world take very long afternoon siestas. I used to think they were lazy. And that's unfair of me to say that. And now being here, it's very blatantly obvious they're not lazy. The human body just can't withstand a lot of the temperatures and humidity. Hey, Angel, I'm happy you're enjoying the channel. Good morning or afternoon or night, wherever you're at. So here, I'll show you the bay I'm in. Again, it's Luperon, Dominican Republic. It's freaking awesome. After spending 5 months in the Bahamas, This is an entirely different world. We're surrounded by jungles and mountains. So there's about 100 boats in the bay. If you have problems hearing me while I'm outside, let me know. I've got a microphone on, so hopefully it won't be too distorted. I don't know if I can, yeah, I can zoom in. There's about 100 boats here. I'm sure there's an official count somewhere, but I haven't seen it. In fact, I haven't turned my VHF radio on a single time since I've been here. So then we start getting into the mountains. And these aren't, for all of my Colorado friends, these aren't like Colorado mountains. They're not 14,000 feet. Like that one there, looking at it is probably 4,000 to 5,000. But then there's some way back there. That one is probably 8,000 to 10,000. And those mountains that surround us here are exactly why cruisers come in to loop around for the hurricane season. Because the way that the mountains change the winds, it somehow, and I've not done the research, but it somehow pushes the hurricanes around the area. Because hurricanes are really all about wind. And the way that the mountains, when the winds are blowing, the mountains just push it away. So this is considered by many to be the safest place in the Caribbean during hurricane season. I feel very fortunate to be here. I've been able to get some boat work done already. Let me go back up front. So the mast, and again, I don't know who all follows me on other social media platforms, but if you followed me, you already know. The mast, I just got back in on Wednesday. I took the mast out. So ever since I've owned the boat, there's wires on the inside of here that control the electronics at the very top. And those wires on the inside, when waves are coming, they just slap on the inside of the mast. And on the inside of the boat, it echoes everywhere. So I've got the mast back in. It was out for all of 4 days. I flew to Miami. I had to get some parts that I wasn't planning on. I was in Miami for all of 90 minutes to get this new wire rope and all of these fittings. So right now the mast is back in, although I need to adjust it. I've not done any adjustment. It's just there. The boom is right here. So that's just one of the projects I have lined up. I have multiple projects for hurricane season that I'll be doing. And with as hot as it is, I wasn't anticipating this. I'm not sure why. But it's going to take me a lot longer than I thought it would. But my primary projects, the mast, which is already halfway done, a little more than halfway done. Getting the deck done. The deck is, I have no non-skid. And quite frankly, especially for a solo sailor, it is very dangerous to not have any non-skid on there. So when this gets wet right now with the condition it's in, and especially the all grip paint, this gets super slippery. So I don't know if you've seen in the videos, anytime I'm under sail, I wear a pair of dive booties that have grip on the bottom. And those are, I do that purely because there's no grip on the boat. And the problem with that, though, is that it makes my feet sweat horribly. So I'll be getting the deck done while I'm here, 100%. But everything is going to take, I'm going to take a wild guess, 30 30 to 50% longer than it normally takes, or than it would take, just because of the extreme temperatures. I thought Florida was hot. I lived there for 3 years. Florida doesn't even compare to the DR. The boat is generally in the afternoons around 100 degrees with anywhere between 70 and 80% humidity. So that'll let you know where that compares to Florida. So all of my Florida friends, stop complaining about the heat. I know it was my choice to come here. I wouldn't change that choice. I love it. But Florida doesn't stand a chance on this one. So I'll go to the chats and see what some of the people have said. Hey, good morning, Summer Wildflower. Luna, my buddy Luke. Good morning or afternoon. Luke is the one in last week's episode. He was the friend that was planning on bringing all of the, as he called it, the illegal goods down to the Bahamas for us. As it turns out, it was not illegal. Everything that we did on that trip was legal. But good morning, Luke. Angel, I'm going to stay here for hurricane season. As far as the Caribbean goes, unless I went all the way down to Grenada, which Grenada, I don't know, for those that don't live around the ocean, that we actually have our first, what's going to become our first hurricane of the season. And oddly enough, it's tracked as of right now to go directly over Grenada. And Grenada is literally the safest place in the Caribbean for hurricanes. But after Grenada, it would be Luperon. And again, it's because of all the mountains that surround us here that direct the hurricanes to go elsewhere, because the winds blow up against the mountains. The mountains, that wind swirls, and I don't know the actual scientific way to say it, but the wind swirls and it pushes the storm away further. So I'm going to stay here in Luperon. Rosario, is there much room for many more boats? They're actually out of space here. There's 2 people that own the mooring balls, and they're not really mooring balls. They're 55-gallon drums that are filled with cement and dropped, and then you tie to that. There's 2 people, Papo and Handy Andy. And they are only allowed, as far as I'm aware, they're only allowed to put so many moorings in this bay. And from what I understand, they're at that limit. So they're not supposed to, but I would bet money that if another boat or 10 come in, they'll find a space for them and they'll make another mooring. When I first got here, I dove on the mooring that I'm on. It only had one 55-gallon drum on there. I'm on one of Papo's moorings, so I paid him an extra $100 US, which is a pretty freaking decent price here in the DR, to put another 55-gallon drum of cement down at the bottom, and he ties them together, so it's a little more secure than it was before. But this bay is pretty much out of room right now. There are a ton of boats here, but I'd bet they can squeeze some more in. Gee. Trout, thanks. New rigging. For all of my sailing friends, you'll know the difference. For all of those that aren't, I'll show you the rigging. So this is a huge upgrade for me. I don't have any of the old standing rigging, and this is what these are called. There's one on the bow, one going to the stern, and then 3 on either side. I don't have any of the old standing rigging to show you, but my old standing rigging was swedged. Excuse me. So it's basically a metal fitting that is crimped around the wire rope. These are called stay locks. They are, the upfront cost is significantly more expensive, but I should never have to pay anybody to do my rigging, because you can take these apart. When this wire rope goes bad, you can, and it's going to be 10 or 15 years. I highly doubt that I own Maritopia that long. She was just a beginner boat to learn on. So this will last long after I sell her. But when the wire rope goes bad, you can take this fitting apart and you can put new wire rope in it. And the way this is manufactured, this fitting is actually, well, the wire rope will break before that fitting. And I can do field repairs. I can take it apart, loosen it up some, and cut, bottom couple of inches off. That'll be coming up in Evolve This Work in a couple of weeks episode. But that's what I flew to Miami to get. I wasn't planning on doing standing rigging. I got over to the work yard. I pulled the mast purely to secure those wires on the inside, and looked at all the fittings, and it was blatantly obvious that I would have been stupid to not replace all that standing rigging. My daughter's on. Maddie, good morning, honey. Amy from Poucher's Travel. Amy and Bruce, love you guys. Mike, I'm going to stay, I don't really know, through at least November, maybe December. It just depends on when the hurricane season starts winding down. And considering we're just getting going for the year, who knows when that'll be. Now I have had some random thoughts in my head after I get the mast adjusted, all the standing rigging adjusted, and the boom back on. I've had considerations of going further, maybe going over to Puerto Rico. I just like being on the move. My buddy Trout, who's on right now, I'm sure that he's laughing at me, but I like being on the move, exploring different cultures and countries. And although that said, I am pretty invested in staying in Luperon for the entire hurricane season. I've paid for the mooring ball for 6 months. I bought a motorcycle, and I've been cruising around the country, exploring and driving it through little rivers, and so I am pretty invested. I would bet that I stay here in Luperon for 6 months, and I leave in late November or December. After I leave here, I'm going to hop down all the Windward, Leeward Islands and make my way to Grenada, Trinidad, Tobago. And then eventually over to Panama. I don't know exactly when I'll make it to Panama, because if I go that far west, I'm going to want to go through the canal and get in the Pacific. And once you go that far west, it would be a bear. And it's not like you can't get back east, but it would just be a bear because you'd be fighting the trade winds the whole way. So I want to hold off on going to Panama until I'm completely done with the Eastern Caribbean. Carla, good morning. Sorry you can't comment. Oh, Luke corrected me. It's afternoon now. Not sure your deck plans. Bruce, Kiwi Grip actually is what I'm using. It's one of the things I brought with me ahead of time so that I didn't have to order it from the States, because as cheap as everything is here, they don't have a lot of stuff. So you'd have to order it from the States and then import it here, which there are import fees. They're relatively inexpensive, but when you're buying a lot of stuff, it does add up. On top of that, for ordering Amazon, you can use a company called BoxPack, and it gets to Miami the normal speed that anything in the U.S. would get delivered. So it gets to Miami in 2 or 3 days. And then it takes about another week for it to get to Luperon, and you go over to BoxPack and you pick it up, and then you pay your import duties and whatnot. Now, when you ship anything flammable or and I might be wrong about this because I've not used their service, but I think that Box Pack, well, you can ship paint, but they won't do any other hazardous liquids. And Carmen Cargo, who takes its cargo ship, and it takes about 3 weeks to get here to Luperon, they won't do paint, but they'll do other hazardous materials. So fortunately, I should have all of the paint and the kiwi grip to do the rest of the deck. Before I do the deck though, I'll show you this. So all of my port lights leak. They have since day one. So I've just smeared silicone on there just to get them to stop leaking. So before I do the kiwi grip, I have to do the rest of the all grip over here around this inner track and from here to basically there. Then I can do kiwi grip across here. But in order to do that, I've got to first replace all of the port lights. I've already got the material for that. I'm not putting these aluminum brackets that hold the plexiglass. I'm not reusing those. The boat's a 1973. It was probably a good idea at the time, but this is a really, really thin aluminum. So when the boat flexes, which it does, all boats flex, it puts really small bends into this aluminum, and it makes it leak. I don't know who all on here, if anybody watches Sailing Uma, Dan and Kika, they've got the exact same boat, and they closed all of those holes where the old port lights were, and they're putting standard boat port lights in theirs, which should be a lot better. Now, actual port lights are expensive. I don't have the money for that, but I do have a plan with what I'm going to do. But I agree, Bruce. Kiwi grip is the best and easy. James, good morning or good afternoon from, I don't know what side of the country Ontario's on, forgive me, but good morning or afternoon, good day. There's actually a lot of your fellow Canadians here in Luperon right now. In fact, I would say that of all of the cruisers here, there's more Canadians than anyone. Second being Americans, and then cruisers from the UK. But there's surprisingly a ton of Canadians here. Longview, Texas. Good morning, Andy. I spent a lot of time in Texas before I quit working. San Antonio, Corpus Christi, Houston, DFW, all over Texas. It was my primary state that I was in 2019. I was down there all but 3 weeks of 2019. So, good morning. Norbert, good morning. Thanks for joining in. Kathy, good afternoon. So, James, the mooring balls are really first come, first serve. I did have some friends that were already here before me. Shout out to Steph and Mike on SV Bela. They were able to communicate with Papo. They got here about 3 weeks before me. And they were able to communicate with Papo. Thought I had one reserved, but the one that they talked to Papo about, somebody had actually already reserved that one. So I got on a different one. But generally speaking, I think it's about half and half, where half the cruisers come in and they don't have a reservation. The others come in and they do. Most of the people that do have one reserved have been here before. And they have Papo and Handy Andy's WhatsApp phone numbers. I did not have that ahead of time. Leadville, Colorado, Chapter 4. Yeah, good morning. Your weather there is completely different than it is here. Leadville, that's Turquoise Lake. That's a fun lake. I wakeboarded on Turquoise Lake on 4th of July about 20 years ago. And I had a wetsuit on, and I still froze. Like I was so cold that my hands froze around the wakeboard rope. So I just had to tilt my body over to fall, but it dragged me a little bit until my hands could unpry from the ski rope. So good morning from Leadville. Dilly Dally. Yeah. So, and I'm sorry, I'm sure that I'm mispronouncing your name, but Seguin? Yeah, I'll go with Seguin. I think that looks good. Yeah, Dilly Dally. I've hung out with them quite a bit since I've been here. Well, not, I mean, relative, but yeah, they're only a few. Yeah, a lot of people do stay in Luperon for the entire hurricane season. It's just so safe, and everything is extremely inexpensive for a Westerner. Morning, Andy. Hey, good morning, Fish Sale. Thanks for making it. Uh, Speaking of how much stuff costs, I paid when I had the mask taken out. That has by far been the most expensive thing. It was $750 uh, to pull it and put it back in, which is actually even more than what it would cost in the States. Now that's done, and all of this will be in weekly episodes. But that crane that came here is probably one of a handful on the entire island. And he came here for 3 different boats. So when I pulled my mast down and I found that my standing rigging, the old Swedge standing rigging, had cracks in it, and I had to go back to Miami to get it. I went back to Miami to get it, which, by the way, a huge shout out to Scrimshaw, my friends Raphael and Mel. They met me at the Miami airport to hand that. They picked it up and then handed that stuff to me at the Miami airport, so I really appreciate them. Good morning, Amy. But the crane truck had to wait on me. So we pulled my mast, and then because I then found out that the standing rigging needed to be replaced, he had to wait on me to go back to Miami and get it. So he charged me a little bit extra. I'm not going to complain about it. The mast is then, it's already done. I have to adjust it. But other than that, you can get basically a gourmet meal for what works out to be $4 or $5. Beer is about $1.25, give or take. I don't drink it, but oddly enough, a beer is more expensive than a Cuba Libre, rum and Coke. I pay 100 pesos for rum and Coke, which I believe the exchange rate right now is 1,600. It'd be about $1 for a rum and Coke. My motorcycle, that was an expensive $500. It's a Chinese one. It's Toro, Tauro. It's a tiny one. In fact, when my legs are down, when I'm sitting on the seat and my legs are down, it's so short that my legs aren't even straight. They're still bent a little bit. But it's hands down the most popular brand here. And when I paid $500, that's about all it's worth is $500. And it's a 2022 model. But it gets up and goes. I had it up to 130 kilometers an hour the other day. I was wearing a helmet. If my sister joins in here, because she's a motorcycle rider, wear your damn helmet. I did order a helmet on Amazon. I knew that the traffic in the DR was bad, but then I did research on it. So the Dominican Republic is rated the worst in the entire world per capita for traffic fatalities. It's 110 ton of traffic fatalities. There's been 3 or 4 since I've been here. I don't want to be one of those. I do wear a helmet. Yeah, Angel, I've been attaching the GoPro to the motorcycle, so I should be able to get some cool videos. They let their cows here just roam free, so you'll be driving down the road at whatever 60, 70 kilometers, and there's cows. Yeah, it's going to be some good videos. especially the one from a few days ago. It'll be a couple of months before it makes it on YouTube, but it was back roads. It was dirt roads that we rode all the way to a beach about 30 miles away. And that should be some really good videos. Trout, he says, to helmets, I bet you reef early. I reefed early when I left Florida, but now I know a lot more, and I feel much more confident and comfortable on the water. So I don't reef nearly as early as I used to. Here, for those that just joined, I'll give another view of the DR. So the work yard where my mast was, and I don't know why it's not there. The work yard, oh, it's because my hand is in there. The work yard is up in that hole right there. Those are local boats, those big motor boats right there. They're beached, and the locals are working on them every single day. They're working on them right now. Actually, it's probably siesta time now, but they work on them every single day. They restore them. They just had this one right here, the left one. It's left on my screen anyway. They had it out the other day testing the motors. Then the actual city of Luperon is that way. So the dinghy dock where, and I keep putting my hand in there and it makes it blurry, sorry. So the dinghy dock, way in the back, you can see blue with white top motorboat, and there's a dock there. That's where I take the dinghy, and then I just walk into Luperon. But these mountains surround us. Those mountains right there, I'm gonna guess this closer one is probably 3,000 feet. That one right there is probably 4,000 to 5,000 feet, and then there's some taller ones in the background. I've not done the research. I think it'd be interesting to see how tall these are. I drove to Santo Domingo on Monday when I went to Miami, and there's some even taller mountains on that drive. So then coming around, we have Las Vegas is a hotel / restaurant that's over here, and that's where I keep my motorcycle. There's an old, they were building a resort and then they just stopped working on it. So it's kind of just a disheveled structure at this point, even though I think it'd be really beautiful when it's done. So that way, the way that we're looking right now is the inlet. That's where I came in at. Open water is probably 1/2 to 3/4 of a mile away. You go down that way and then you veer off to the left. So the open ocean is not that far from us. But because of that wind that it makes, it's able to block all of the sea waves, and because we're in a protected harbor, the wind waves don't get that big either. Where are you going for hurricane? Amy, I'm staying here for hurricane season. I'll be here in Luperon, DR for probably for the entirety. I'm actually enjoying getting boat work done again. And this is a good place to work on the boat, but who knows? I may get a wild hair and shoot over to Puerto Rico. But the Mona Passage, which is between the eastern DR and western Puerto Rico, is pretty gnarly with the easterly trade winds that we have. So the trade winds are blowing from the east 100% of the time this year. So let me turn this around. That is east. And every single day, all day, the winds are blowing from that direction. So Puerto Rico's basically that east and a tiny bit south of here. We're in the bay, and the waves are barely anything, maybe 8 inches. But because of the easterly trade winds, the Mona Passage has nothing to block the waves. I went out the week after I got here with some friends. We were going to go to a place called Cambiasso, which is only 3 or 4 hours away, but the waves were massive. We were on his boat, which was like a 45, I don't know, 45, 42, 45 foot catamaran. And the waves were 8 feet at about 3 seconds. For all of my non-sailing friends, when I say the time like that, it means that that's how far apart the waves are. So the smaller the number, the worse the waves are. So 8 foot waves at about 3 seconds is that's massive. Now 8 foot waves at 10 seconds wouldn't be that bad at all. So it all depends on how close. It depends on a lot of things. But here, I'll show you the boat some more. So this bay is really disgusting. You're not going to be able to tell from video, but there are no services here. So people dump their when they flush, the stuff just goes into the bay. So I don't make water here. In fact, I just pickled the water maker yesterday. On top of that, there's a lot of growth, and it's hard growth. So every night, I pull the dinghy out of the water. I've not left the boat yet this morning, but the dinghy is about 18 inches above the water. I'll back up some. I take the plug out of it every night. So you can see it has an angle that way, because at the back, I take the plug out in case it rains. Which it has rained a few times. That way the water all goes out of it. I don't want to put so much weight in the dinghy that it starts pulling the davits down. For those that joined late, Amy, I got the mast back in on Wednesday. I don't have any of the standing rigging adjusted. It's just there holding the mast up right now. I wanted to take a few days off. My body was beat. The boom is still sitting right here on the deck. And here's the mooring. Hey, sorry about that, everyone. Hopefully I'm back. For some reason, my Starlink just went out, cut out. So I was going to show you the mooring ball, but I'm not sure why my Starlink cut out. It's never done that. But it's just 55-gallon drums on the bottom. I paid an extra $100 US just a few days ago to put a second barrel down there to make it safer for when the wind blows. Other projects that I'd like to get done while I'm here are my countertop. I'm sick. I built this. And I don't know who's seen it. So the gimbaling gimbal box for the induction cooktop. But now I'm sick of looking at the wood, and I'm sick of looking at this 1970s Formica. I'm still just trying to decide what I want to do with the countertop, but I know it's just something that I'm going to try to get done during hurricane season. As well, the countertop above the freezer, I built that the week before I left Florida, and moved. The freezer was right there, but I moved it over here so that I had room for the stove. But I want to cover this with something. Chances are I'm going to end up using Formica again, just one that doesn't have scratches and cuts and stuff. A lot of those are because I end up using this as a workbench. But it's also from when I crawl outside to inside. I step right there, and so the sand and stuff on my feet gets compressed into there. Here's where I work. This comes up. And I set my computer and whatnot up there. So yeah, this is the inside of the boat. There's all the wires and stuff from from when I had the mast out. I've not anything back up. They're just there. And while the mast was out, I also painted with Ospo. This is steel, the mast step. So I painted it with Ospo paint. It's a rust converter. And it's really good. Any sailor will tell you that Ospo is an amazing product, but it converts, and I'd be lying if I told you I totally understood it, but it basically converts rust to where it is impossible for that rust to expand. Angel, the length of it is 36 feet. The length at water level is 32 feet, but the overall length, minus the swim platform and the davits that I built in the back, the overall length is 36. Does anyone else have any other questions? I hope I've answered everything. I hope it's been enjoyable for everyone. The questions have kind of slowed down, so I think everyone is maybe getting a little bit over it for now. I'll give it a couple more minutes and see if there's any more questions. All of my batteries, my 6 Battleborn batteries are down there, and all of my electrical components are right here. And then I put a temperature sensor in there, so that when this compartment gets to, I think I have it set at 96 degrees, fans come on, this one from the bottom, that one from the back, and they blow out the vents that I put in there to help lower the temperature of the electronics and batteries. Sailing to John, I have my primary anchor is 45-pound Manus. Then in the Lazarette, I've also got a 55-pound Manus. Those are my 2 main ones. Now that there's a hurricane actually approaching right now, the first of the season, I'll probably switch back to the 55. And the whole reason I bought the 55 was purely for hurricane season. It's what Manus recommends, the size Manus recommends for a boat my size and my weight. But it is heavy for my windlass that I have. So I purposely take it off when it's not hurricane season. Thanks, Gary. Yeah, I'm learning. Hopefully I get better over time. Hopefully the videos have gotten better over time. I do spend more time editing. I'm learning different tools to use. So hopefully that's noticeable. James, electrical system. So James, I purposely wired my system into 24 volts. I started from scratch. But I wired it to 24 volts on purpose because 24 volts charges faster. And 48, I considered going up to 48, but I think that would have been overkill. So not only are the batteries wired into 24 volts, but my 6 solar panels are wired into 3 series of 2. So these 2 are together, the very back 2 are together, and then the front back one and that one are together. And I did that because since I wired the batteries 24 volts, the solar panels also have to be pushing the correct voltage and amperage in order to properly charge the batteries. So a few reasons. 24 volt charges faster. And on top of that, the wires don't have to be nearly as big as 12 volt. So you have some weight savings on the wire. You have some cost savings on the wire because a smaller wire doesn't cost that as much. But my primary reason was because it charges faster. Now, when I go over here, my primary energy consumptions are on 24 volts. So that inverter runs the Starlink. I converted my Starlink to DC 2 different times. But the parts that were available, and that's been about a year, the parts that were available at that time anyway, were Chinese junk, and they failed. So I just bought a small 375 watt Victron inverter and it only runs the Starlink. My freezer and refrigerator are also running on 24 volts. In fact, the refrigerator and freezer will run on 12, 24, 110, or 220. But those and the Starlink are my main energy consumers. Everything else I've still got on 12 volt. There's a converter that converts the 24 volt to 12 behind there. So then all of my lights and boat electronics are still running on 12 volt. Hopefully that answered your question. Amy, this is cool. You should do this at least once a month. Good way to make sure you're doing well. Thank you very much, Amy. I hope that you're doing well too. I'm really hoping that you can link up with Trout, who's on the chat as well. He should be up at TJ's in Bellhaven. Well, he's Trout, so who really knows? I don't even think he knows. But he's planning on being up in Bellhaven, North Carolina shortly. Definitely link up with him if you and Ray are able to. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and get off. I appreciate everyone that was able to join. I hope that it was entertaining. I know I enjoyed getting to be able to answer questions directly from everyone in real time. So, yeah. Y'all have a good afternoon. I'm going to have a good afternoon. I'm going to drop the dinghy in the water and go into town and eat some lunch. So, thank you all very much.